Yes, Mayor, on there. William Catlin, 6203 Todd Avenue, Southwest of Lordstown. And we presented a letter tonight to the Mayor and also to Council. And in light of what came out this evening, a lot of what we're looking at is what the public is saying. You know, you being legislators, you know how slow the system works on this. And getting funds a lot of times is hard to do. And as a result of that, some of the needs we need now. I mean, we had a meeting with the parents, and they addressed their concerns, and my concerns are the same. You know, yeah, there's 2 bills in the legislature right now for security in there, but we know how slow local government works, or even state government. I would like to read the letter to everybody here so everybody's on the same page on that. Mayor Hill and members of Lordstown Village Council, the Lordstown Board of Education values its many partnerships with key stakeholder groups in the village of Lordstown. The opportunity to work with internal groups such as Lordstown Athletic Boosters and Lordstown parents interested in education help directly support our students in the positive activities they pursue. External stakeholder groups have provided opportunities for Lordstown schools to build partnerships beyond the traditional schoolhouse doors. We're proud to be working with the Lordstown Lions Club as they continue planning a new facility, and appreciate the work they do on behalf of our students. With great anticipation each year, the Apple Cider Festival is held here each September. Not only does this provide the community the opportunity to enjoy the fun of the festival, but also allows Lordstown student groups to raise funds for activities. Most recently, we have worked directly with the Lordstown Historical Society and Lordstown Alumni Association to assist in planning a celebration marking the 100th anniversary of the first graduating class at Lordstown schools. This began by meeting to showcase items for both organizations to be placed in repurposed trophy cases in the schools so that our current students can gain a new appreciation for the history of the village and the alumni from Lordstown schools. We look forward to continuing to grow this partnership. Lordstown Schools has appreciated the support of these and many other partners, including the Village of Lordstown. We're the proud host of the walking and exercise program facilitated by the Lordstown Rec Program. And we're excited about all the improvements in the Rod A. Phillips Fitness Center located at Lordstown High School. These and many programs and partnerships we have forged continue to benefit both our students and the community of Lordstown Village. As we are sure you're aware of, the topic of school security has been a major issue that all schools are dealing with. While we have made improvements to our security operations at Lordstown schools and have partnered with the Village of Lordstown to hire a school resource officer, we have many things we'd like to do to add to our overall security strategy. Some of these improvements include installation of security vestibules in both buildings, Raptor technology system that checks ID cards for all school visitors, metal detectors with wands for each building. Improvements to current video surveillance with cameras and additional equipment. Safety measures to improve glass entryways. Solid doors installed at the appropriate entrance exits. The security improvements above have been discussed previously by school officials, and available resources have been the biggest barrier to this taking place. We held a meeting with concerned residents soon after the school shooting in Florida, and many of these improvements came up. In addition to these improvements, school families, students, and staff continue to provide ideas on how to improve the safety of our students. The safety of our students remains a top concern for Lordstown local schools. We've explained previously some of the challenges the school funding system Ohio poses to Lordstown schools. 3 main challenges are outlined below. And we went into tangible personal property. We've discussed this many times, advocated through legislative testimony as well as other lobbying regarding maintaining these reimbursements. The reimbursements were started when the state of Ohio eliminated taxes on tangible personal property tax. This was a primary funding driver at Lordstown schools due to the amount paid in TPP taxes by General Motors. The state of Ohio generated the revenue to pay the reimbursements through a new tax at the time in Ohio called the commercial activity tax. As this was locally generated tax revenue, the state of Ohio committed to make districts whole for their losses, as the idea was to make a better business environment for new and existing businesses. The tax was eliminated in 2005. The reimbursements began, and soon legislators changed, governors changed, which has become a movement for the phase-out of dollars being paid to schools in TPP revenue. Most recently, we were receiving $1.6 million in TPP reimbursements. We used to receive over $2 million previous to 2005. While lobbying efforts by some of the districts hurt the most, were successful to some extent in delaying the phase-out, it has now been continued in law to completely eliminate the state subsidy, putting pressures on local districts and local taxpayers. Thus, as we begin to get new revenue from Lordstown Energy Center, we will eventually lose state reimbursements in the amount of $1.6 million. Per pupil funding, the funding formula determines the per pupil amount for each. I'm sorry, my voice, I have a bad sinus infection. The main basis for this is total property value and number of students and how this compares statewide. When you take the total foundation funding our district receives and apply it to our average daily membership, we're a little over $2,000 per student. The average amount per pupil in neighboring districts and several districts in our athletic conference receive nearly $7,000 per student. Funding cap. In school finance, you're either a formula district, a guaranteed district, you're guaranteed a specific amount based on previous funding level, or capped, which determines the amount of money a district receives. The state applies a cap on certain districts. Unfortunately, we're a capped district. We lose another $750,000 due to the cap. We know that the Village of Lordstown does not control the school funding system in Ohio and are not at fault for these challenges. We outline these issues to provide a history of these challenges and provide context for requests. Lordstown Schools works hard to provide our students with a safe and quality educational experience despite these challenges. We are also proud that Lordstown Schools does this with the second lowest millage out of 20 school districts. While we at Lordstown Schools have been and continue to be challenged by the school funding system, we've worked with the Village of Lordstown to provide tax incentives to the Lordstown Energy Center as well as the proposed Trumbull Energy Center. The revenue from the tax incentive agreement with Lordstown Energy Center will help make up some of the continued loss of TPP reimbursement from the state of Ohio. We hope to see a TEC project become a reality, but will not include it in future financial planning until ground is broken on the project. The question that is asked quite often to the Board of Education members, what was the value of the Lordstown Energy Center abatement? While no investment leads to no increase in tax revenue, the value of the actual abatement is below. The projections are based on some property type assumptions on there. And it shows there that the value of abatement 100% for the school would be $144,129,000, and the village was $3,872,625. Lordstown Schools has seen the value in these projects and have supported them through tax incentive agreements in tandem with the village. Nevertheless, one agreement we do wish we could revisit is the tax incentive agreement involving the Village of Lordstown and General Motors. This is not to lower the incentive General Motors receives, as we realize what they mean to the entire Mahoning Valley, but the terms regarding the income taxes in the Village of Lordstown. Had this agreement been negotiated currently, Lordstown Schools would surely support such assistance to General Motors, but would also request a share of the income and net profit taxes paid by General Motors. It is estimated the Village of Lordstown will receive $375,000 from the income taxes on the profit sharing checks of General Motors, workers alone. We are requesting that the Village of Lordstown share 50% of this with Lordstown local schools for the express purpose of meeting the immediate needs of building security improvements. We are also aware the Village of Lordstown received $500,000 the last time General Motors showed a profit as a net profit tax. We would also request that if such a profit is made again, and net profit tax paid, this be shared between the Lordstown School District and the Village of Lordstown to help provide some equity and revenue as the Village of Lordstown continues to receive these revenue streams while the TPP tax is formerly paid to the school district has been eliminated. Please note at this time we are not requesting income tax sharing on wages paid throughout the year, but on the profit sharing checks as well as the net profit taxes. We look forward to providing a safe and quality education to the children of Lordstown for decades to come. The sharing of this revenue will help close the gap in funding equity as Lordstown schools continue to forego millions in tax revenue for the projects to move forward, while the village of Lordstown will continue to have revenue increases in net profit taxes between $1.5 and $2 million from LHC alone. We hope to move forward on safety improvements here pretty soon about our request. And in conclusion, I would like to say I agree with you, Mayor, as far as the Facebook on there. Unfortunately today, that's something that, being in the public sector and with records requests, we have no control over either way on there. And I just appreciate council to look at this and take it under advisement. Thank you.
Bill, just one thing. You know I've supported the schools. You and I have had a lot of talks. Some people out there don't think that I do. They think that all I do is look at the dollar. Whenever a business comes in here, I realize the school entity, is what hits the most. The one figure, the value of 100% abatement, $144 million. And once again, you go back to Facebook, where I'm blocked, where a board member says, the mayor left $128 million on the table. You know, and I know, and anybody who follows this knows that's not true, because I saw the overhead site of where that power plant would have been in Salem. If we didn't get this plant, and I wish you would have had in there how much money the school did get, because you put in how much money we're getting, but you never put in how much money the school got, which was in excess of $20 million. So when we have people in the Facebook folly sitting there saying, wow, you left all this money on the table, there wasn't a dime on the table. And in talking with the superintendent, comparing this power plant to any other agreement, he said everyone he found, our school district got the second best abatement, and I'm sure you know that.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
And they would have not got any of it. I've been down to Columbus 4 times lobbying for that second plant there, for TEC, because First Energy wants to come and put a tax of 3 to 5% on every ratepayer in their districts to help keep their nuclear and coal plants going.
I understand that.
And I've been down there, and I testified in front of the House, and there was a gentleman who asked some questions for me, and he said, I told him, if every ratepayer, which includes everybody in Toledo, Luminate Company, Ohio Edison, if any of those came up, we'd all have to pay. And he said, I told him that's a subsidy, and why should we sit there and subsidize these plants that would have been there forever? It's a bailout. So this guy, who you could tell which side of the fence he was on, he said, I got a question. I said, okay. He said, did you give the power plant an abatement? I said, yes, sir. And I explained everything, including all the things which the school derived from it. He said, isn't that a bailout? I said, no. He says, well, why isn't it? I said, because they gave up something they never had. You want to get into the ratepayers' pockets and have us and everybody else pay for that. Well, I can disagree with that. And then he said, to go to your $144 million, he says, how much would they have paid if the abatement had come, if you hadn't given them the abatement? Well, I didn't have these figures. I said, I really can't say, sir. Then he says, come on, take a guess. I look at him and I said, 0. He looks at me, he says, how can you say that? I said, because if the power plant did not get this abatement, they were going right down the street. We would have gone nothing. And I'm going to tell you, I don't like these abatements. But if we want anything, it's the game you got to play. Nobody likes it. I, as well as anybody, and I've had dialogues with you, with the superintendent and everybody. If we didn't grant them, if the power plant didn't come in and even throw Metalco and other places on there, rather than you guys would be wondering how you're going to avoid consolidation and how if you're going to be getting enough money for the income tax to pay off the loan you took out to be able to make your payroll. And you and I have had this discussion
We had
too.
that. Also, I mean, I've also been down there talking to legislators on this. As a matter of fact, as of last week, I was down with a group of our students when the regional chamber was down there. We went down there and we talked about legislators, and the question of security came up. You know, the Representative Brenner is there, and he asked the kids, what do you think you need? And they came up, I mean, on their own. I mean, nothing was said to them, say this or that. They says, we need help for security. We need metal detectors and that in our schools. And like I said, yeah, there's two bills. One was introduced by Senator Schiavone, and I don't know who the other one is. There's two bills down there right now on school security. And by the time they would get through hearings and everything, it's going to be 6 months from now if it even gets through. I mean, we know that. You know, that's what we're looking, if we can start a dialogue to do something with that, and that's normally what we're hoping for. Like I says, I don't necessarily like everything on Facebook either, but it's the world we live in today. And we have to, just something as public officials, we have to realize and bite the bullet. And I thank you for your time.
I'll give you a call in the morning, Bill. Thank you.